So guys, today I have a really exciting video for you and one that I've wanted to do for ages. And I feel like this, up until now, is basically an all-encompassing overview of Qubic that shares all the information that I've gathered, or kind of an overview of all the information that I've gathered since I discovered this project and I've dug into it. Now, I'm going to basically present you 23 points and 23 reasons that I think Qubic is just an exceptional project and why, nothing's for certain, but why I think this should be a really, really successful project and a great investment. And like I said, I just want to make clear for each point, I'm not going to go deep into them. In some of my other videos, I go deep into each point, but I'm going to just talk about them in a little bit of detail. Okay, so let's get into it. So yeah, let's start with reason number one. And reason number one is the creator, Sergey Ivancheglo. So Sergey Ivancheglo created the first proof-of-stake project ever and created the first DAG project ever. So he's been an innovator in the crypto space for a long time. And also NXT and IOTA and provided incredible returns for early investors, like 500,000% or 614,000%. So really, really big deals. So this guy knows how to create successful projects. He's been talking about Qubic since 2012. He was the third person ever to mine Bitcoin, apparently. He was definitely an early miner of Bitcoin. And he's been talking about the idea of useful proof of work since like 20 years ago. So this is a long-term plan that he's been planning, and this guy is a gigabrain and one of the OGs of the crypto space. So anything that this guy touches, you should be following it and is likely to turn to gold. And the next reason then is not just Sergey Ivancheglo, there's a huge team now working behind Qubic of top developers. Some of those developers are coming from companies like Google. Then you've got a legal team working with Qubic. You've got them representatives all over the world, and the team is growing all the time. I recommend at any point going to Qubic's website and just digging in and seeing some of the expertise that they have there, because they've got a really, really, really strong team behind this project, and it's around 50 people at the moment, I think. So it's a big deal. Especially check out this guy, Phil, who's the lead developer. This guy's got serious experience. And the third reason then is that Qubic is super, super fast. So it can do about 1 million transactions per second, and it can do around 55 million smart contracts transfers per second. But that isn't even the upper limit for Qubic. It's just the highest point that they've hit in testing right now. And there's a number of reasons why Qubic is this quick that you can dig into yourself, but it comes down to feeless transactions, working out of raw metal, no decimal place, and just the basic infrastructure of how to do everything with a quorum. But basically what you need to know is that Qubic is super, super scalable and super, super fast. And that leads us on to reason number 4. Qubic is one of the most decentralized blockchains out there right now. In fact, it isn't even a blockchain. There's a quorum tick chain, but we can just call it a blockchain. But it's super decentralized and it works on a system called the quorum, which I'll explain in a second when we look into it in more detail. But what you just need to understand is that Qubic is very decentralized. And just explaining how it's decentralized is with decentralized governance. So Qubic is one of those crypto projects and this new wave of crypto projects that has decentralized governance. So basically, the quorum, which we introduced in this last section, the quorum is broken down into 676 different members. Actually, there's more members than that, but that's a bigger story. But 676 members who have risen into a position of power there. And then each of those 676 quorum members has a mining pool under them. And each of those mining pools consists of miners, just like me or you, who are using their computer to mine Qubic. Now, each miner then can vote on anything in the Qubic ecosystem. So anyone can also bring a proposal to the Qubic ecosystem. So, for example, I could bring a proposal and say, I want to change the name of Qubic. That's just a stupid example. But I want to change the name of Qubic to the Crypto Escape coin or something like that. Then that proposal would go to vote. Every miner then would vote within each of their pools. let's say 51% of miners in one pool vote yes, then that quorum member will vote yes. And then you have the 676 members vote yes. Now, why that's really decentralized is that in other crypto networks, you can get these huge mining companies that work together and they actually get all the voting power. But with Qubic, you've got 676 quorum members, and they are all known to each other. If any of them try to take over complete power of the network, they can be overwritten then by other members seeing this one entity trying to take control, and then overall there's an arbitrator that can prevent one taking control. Now, as you see, I'm skipping over a few words there because I don't understand it in super detail, but in decent detail I understand it. And if you see in another video, I've covered the quorum in the past. But decentralized governance then is a big deal because Qubic has what is called the Computer Control Fund. It's basically a big pool of money that they have that they can spend on any initiatives that will better the Qubic project. So, for example, they might want to hire 5 developers to work on a specific project. So what they'll do then is bring a proposal to the quorum. The quorum then puts that to the miners. The miners all vote on it. And then those votes top up into the quorum vote. And then the quorum brings that vote. And then if you have to get 66% of the quorum vote for a proposal to pass. So it's really decentralized is basically what I'm saying, and it's really resistant then to what is called, I can't even remember the name of the attack, but it's called a 51% attack. But in Qubic, it's called, in Qubic you need 66%, need 66% control of the quorum to control the Qubic network, while with projects like Bitcoin, Cash, just any general crypto projects, you only need 51% of the power, which makes Qubic super secure from this type of attack that escaped my name. And in general, it seems like Qubic's super secure. I don't know this for an absolute fact, but it seems to be super secure. They're doing a lot of work on hackathons, bringing in people to actually go and audit Qubic in terms of security, and seems to be a very secure network. Mainly because that's decentralization, it should be super secure as well. But time will tell on this one. I can't 100%. I'm not technical enough to know how secure Qubic is, but I believe that it is extremely secure. Then the 7th reason that we have here is a Qubic, and I've actually punched 3 reasons in here, so I'm kind of cheating here because you could split these out in 3 separate reasons. But the first one, and the one that's be most interesting to people, is that Qubic is feeless, so there's no fees for transactions. Now, that is a big deal for people building apps on it, or maybe retailers or businesses that want to use Qubic. They've got no fees when they're using this network. But also in terms of speed, it's a big deal because Qubic doesn't have to work out the cost of a transaction. Then Qubic actually operates offline, and that's due to the quorum, which is a really big deal. So there's offline payment verification. And then the through the quorum, it's got what's called true finality. So with a lot of crypto projects, when a transaction goes through, a lot of times it isn't truly finalized straight away, but with Qubic, it is truly finalized within seconds. Now, again, I don't understand true finality in detail, but apparently Qubic has that, and it's the only crypto project, or one of the only ones that has that. Then the next one, so number 8, and this is a big deal. So Qubic operates out of raw metal, and that probably sounds ridiculous. Like, well, what does it mean that it operates out of raw metal? If you take most crypto projects, they operate out of an operating system, and through operating out of an operating system, they end up having issues when it comes to speed, or slight issues when it comes to speed. But Qubic just operates out of the command line interface and just within bare metal, as they put it. This is a really big deal because it makes Qubic super fast, and that's how we can hit those 55 million transfers per second. But also, what it means, and this is a really important point that I've only been learning about lately, is that when Qubic hardware is upgraded, Qubic becomes faster and more scalable and more powerful. So, for example, in 10 years' time, when GPUs, CPUs, and computers are more advanced, Qubic will be more advanced with them. It's going to evolve with hardware as it evolves. So the only limitation for Qubic is the actual hardware that it runs on. And that isn't true for most crypto projects out there. So this is a big, big deal. Number 9, Qubic has smart contracts. So, if you look at a lot of these new crypto projects that have launched that people are so into, Qubic already has smart contracts. And now I should point out, I haven't even put into this list that Qubic is a layer 1, meaning that any project can be built on top of it, or really, the Qubic creator will call it a layer 0, meaning that it can connect any project with any other project. But also Qubic can run smart contracts. And if you look at projects like CAS, which is a great project and one of the top projects that's been launched recently, CAS isn't going to have smart contracts for 2 or 3 years, but Qubic already has smart contracts. And if you don't know what smart contract is, smart contracts originated on the Ethereum network, and they're a self-executing contract with terms of the agreement between the buyer and seller being directly written into lines of code. So as a kind of something happens, like for example, a delivery driver delivers a pizza, something like that, as that happens, the smart contracts execute, pays the delivery driver, and closes the smart contract. That's just a small example of what a smart contract is. And this is a big deal for the future of the world and crypto and blockchains in general. And number 10, Qubic has oracles coming to the network by the end of this year. Again, a lot of crypto networks will never have oracles, but this is a big deal for Qubic. And what it means is that Qubic can operate as a layer 0, connecting blockchain to blockchain, and also connecting the blockchain to the outside world and pulling real data from the outside world. So that's basically what an oracle is. It connects blockchain to blockchain and also connects the blockchains to the outside world and can pull real data in real time. So a really, really big deal. A lot of crypto networks do not have oracles. Number 11 then is that Qubic has decentralized apps. So due to smart contracts, Qubic has decentralized apps. Now, the Ethereum network, and that's why you see the Ethereum signs here, and I just got a Qubic sign and put it over Ethereum here. Ethereum was originally meant to be the, the computer of the internet, or the mind of the internet, and the computer of the world, and the computer that the whole world would run on. And basically it would mean that when you go and buy a house, you would do it through an app. It would execute a smart contract, and the ownership of the house would go into your name, and the funds would be transferred at the same time to the person selling the house. And then written on the blockchain would be that you own that house. And then even if you want to take a loan out for the house, you could go and put the equity of your house out onto the market, and people all over the world could go and micro fund you. And then as you make payments on your house, that'll be taken out from your account in a smart contract and paid in microtransactions to these people all over the world. So the poorest people in the world could be just lending you $10, and you could be paying them out. They could be earning an income out of it. Then again, if you were running a taxi service, maybe to start up your business, you'd get a loan off people. You do it the same way. You go and create that smart contract. You go and pull in all the money that way. Every time you make a payment back, people get paid microtransactions. But with your taxi service, you might have an app, and people, when they're booking your taxi, they book it on that app. When they make a payment to you, they make a payment through that app, and maybe you'd keep 50% of the payment, and then the payments would the other 50% would go out in microtransactions to all the people who have invested in your business. Shopping could be done this way, messaging could be done this way, things like traffic control could be controlled this way. Everything could be just on the blockchain, and it could be like the brain or the mind of the internet. This is a really big deal and could have been so huge for Ethereum, but Ethereum just wasn't scalable enough to handle this. But Qubic, with 55 million transfers per second, can actually make this a reality, especially since Qubic might be able to scale in the future to 1 billion transactions per second, or transfers per second, and 10 million transactions per second or even more. So Qubic is, or appears to be, I don't know this for a fact, only time will tell, but it appears to be the first crypto project that can scale to the level required to do what Ethereum set out to do. So this is one of the biggest deals, and being able to build decentralized apps on the Qubic network is a really big deal. And we're going to look at some of those decentralized apps in the next few parts of this countdown. So next on our list, we've got something called Quotary, and Quotary is really, really cool. So this is a decentralized app built on the Qubic network. And basically, as it says, bet on anything, anytime. Join the ultimate peer-to-peer betting revolution, safe, secure, and exciting. Basically what this is a decentralized betting platform. So if you've ever used anything like, it could be Coral betting, Paddy Power betting in Ireland, whatever betting service you use, could be Betfair as well. There's any number of betting websites that you can use. It's a centralized entity that creates all the betting, creates all the odds, all that sort of stuff. But Qubic has now created a decentralized betting platform where, for example, I could just come in here, create a bet. The bet then goes live on the Quotary website, and then people can come and bet on what I put out there. So, for example, I could say, will Man United beat Real Madrid this week? And we all know Real Madrid will win, but I could give odds of 10-1 for Man United to win, and very low odds for Madrid to win. And basically, that's what you can do. And then when this links with oracles, Quotary is going to be able to pull data from the outside world. And as it pulls data from the outside world, in real time, it's going to be able to see the Man United and Real Madrid match. It'll see the score. If Man United win, straight away it's going to pay out off the wallets of the people playing on Quotary, and pay whoever bet on Man United. So that's a really, really, really cool development, and a really cool decentralized app, and a really cool use case that shows just how far ahead of most projects Qubic is already. The next thing that we have up is a computer game that's been built on the Qubic network. And if I'm doing my job right, I'm putting up some shots of the game right now, or actually the shots that you will be looking at, if I remember to do it, is a game called Wicked Games, or by a team called Wicked Games, I think. I can't remember if it's the game called Wicked Games or the team called Wicked Games. But basically, the game that you should be looking at now was released a few years ago, and the Qubic network has now employed these guys to make a game on the Qubic network. Now, this game that they released years ago is obviously the inspiration for this new game, and they're both going to look quite similar, I think. But I imagine this new game, which is called My Last Match, is going to look a bit more advanced because some time has passed. But the whole idea is going to be this complete immersive online world where you can own anything. It's all stored on the blockchain or tick chain, on the Qubic network. All transactions and all things that you do in the game are done through Qubic. So if you want to buy a gun or a weapon, you do it through the Qubic network. If you want to buy a house or something like that, you do it through the Qubic network. It's going to be a really violent game, apparently. You can enter competitions, win Qubic, all that sort of stuff. And bearing in mind that the game that you should be seeing on the screen right now, it's going to look better. I imagine, I can't prove this, but I imagine it's going to look better than that game. Like, this is a serious team working on this. This is going to be one of the top games in the crypto space. And then there's already an announcement of another game called Qubic Quest, I think is the name of it, that's coming to Qubic network. And we're probably going to see lots of games launching if this game is successful. So My Last Match is going to be a big deal for the Qubic network. Next up then, we've got the Qubic DEX, or QX as it's called, and that's just a typical DEX where you can trade between cryptocurrencies and trade different things on it, and different assets. So that's going to be really cool. As you can see right now, it looks a bit clunky, much like Quotary, but I'm going to explain how Qubic's fixing that shortly. But the first thing that I want to talk about before that is the Qubic Grants Committee. And the Qubic Grants Committee has a fund, and it comes from the Computer Control Fund. And basically what they're doing is granting millions of dollars to people or to developers who want to build on the Qubic network and have a really good idea that could work. And, I don't know how often they're going to do it, but maybe every 3 months, they're going to open up people to apply for a grant. People take, their idea to the Qubic network, and the Qubic network will give them a grant to get their idea off the ground. And this should attract a lot of top projects to the Qubic network. And what's really cool about this is that they're building out a team to work in the program committee. So it's not like it's just one person. There's a group of about 5 people working on this grants committee, and they're going to work with the projects to make sure the projects are developed in the best way possible. So this is exciting for the future, because you can imagine what sort of apps could come out of this in the future. Probably lots of things like more games and hopefully some really interesting use cases as well. And then, so as we said, Qubic Dex looks a bit clunky, Quotary looks a bit clunky, but the first grant that was given to the Qubic network is called QFront, and QFront is going to be like the one-stop shop where you can go and access everything on the Qubic network, and they're going to just make everything look really pretty and user-friendly. So Quotaries are going to make it look a lot more user-friendly. The Qubic Dex, they're going to make that look a lot more user-friendly. Time will only tell how good this is going to be, but I'm really excited about it, and I think it could be a really big deal. And I'm happy to hear that they've got really experienced and talented user interface people working on this. So it's going to be launched before the end of this year. And I think this is going to be a big advancement for the Qubic network. I'm going to give you a bonus one here as well that I realized that I forgot, but there's also something launching called QEarn. And QEarn is going to be a way in the Qubic network that you can stake your Qubic and earn a passive income on the Qubic network as well. So then we've got here we've got useful proof of work. I actually forgot what this one was for a second. So useful proof of work. Basically what this is that people mine Qubic all over the world. So just from their laptop, anyone in the world can mine Qubic, just like you can with Bitcoin or CAS or any of the top projects out there right now. But with Qubic, when you mine with your Qubic, that compute power doesn't go to waste. It actually all comes together, and Qubic can use that power for any number of reasons. And the main reason that they're using it right now is to train AI, but they're also going to start selling that compute power to companies to earn an income, and I'll explain to you in a minute what they're going to do with that. But Qubic is amassing so much power that it's already, apparently, I've seen the numbers in this, but you got to take these things with a pinch of salt, but they're saying it's the 6th most powerful supercomputer in the world right now. And if they do what they're planning on doing, Qubic will become the most powerful supercomputer on Earth. It's just, that's factual, that if they do what they plan to do, it will happen. The only thing that's doubtful is whether all that will work and they do actually do what they intend to do. So only time will tell on that. But they're amassing a lot of power in the background, and all that power is decentralized, and it's all free, because the Qubic network isn't paying people for these computers. They're paying them in Qubic, but they're just generating Qubic out of thin air and paying people for this to get their compute power. But if you take a company like Google or Amazon or any of those companies that are major companies, they have to pay hundreds of millions to get all this compute power, but Qubic's amassing it for free. It's an incredibly clever idea. And Sergey Ivancheglo was actually talking about this idea over 20 years ago, which is amazing. And then one of the biggest things about this useful proof of work is the idea that Sergey Ivancheglo has come out with recently. And recently, he just finished coding a change in the Qubic mining algorithm to release computational power equals the power of, from the Swiss National Supercomputing Center. So that's how powerful Qubic is. And by releasing half its power, it's the same as the Swiss National Supercomputing Center. And then how to use it, so people can share their ideas. But the way that they eventually decided that they're going to use it is they're going to sell the computational power fiat. So basically, companies can come to Qubic and Qubic's going to outsource the computations or let people go and use that computational power to run computations. Then they're going to use that fiat to buy Qubic and market buy Qubic. So they're going to buy your Qubic that you're selling, for example. Then they're going to burn that Qubic. So they're not going to hold on to this Qubic. And then that's going to create an upward pressure on the price because they reckon that this computing power is worth around $5 million per month to sell. So they're going to be buying $5 million worth of Qubic each week, burning that $5 million, which is obviously going to create an upward pressure on the price, which is going to make mining more profitable, which is going to bring more miners to mine Qubic because they're obviously, if it's more profitable to mine Qubic, more miners are going to be attracted to the project, which means then that they can sell even more computational power, which means to get more fiat, and they keep repeating this, creating kind of a black hole to suck up all the mining power that they can. Really cool idea. The idea isn't to make Qubic as valuable as possible or to make a quick buck. The idea is that they want as much computational power as they can get to achieve the goals of Qubic in terms of AI. So this is really, really interesting. And then we've got the white paper. And this white paper is kind of famous now because it's one of the biggest FUDs you'll ever hear about Qubic is they don't have a white paper right now. And people try to use that as a reason to be negative about Qubic. But for me, the fact that there's no white paper is one of the most bullish things about Qubic. This is how early in a project you are, is that they haven't released their plan for the project. So basically, what is a white paper? It's an informational document issued by a company or not-for-profit organization to promote or highlight the features of a solution, product, or service that it offers or plans to offer. The thing is, Qubic hasn't come out explicitly and said, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're doing it right now. But that white paper is in development and it's on the way. And we're getting the ideas of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But if you're buying Qubic right now, you're in so early because you're in before the white paper. And that to me is a really, really cool thing. Then the next thing is that there's technical papers being written on Qubic right now. So, a technical paper being a document that presents the results of research, analysis, or experimentation in a specific field, typically aimed at an audience of professionals or academics. These papers are characterized by their focus on technical content, clarity, and rigor. And then, it goes on to tell some key features of technical papers. But why this is a big deal is because all the work that Qubic's done in terms of, we talked about the speed, the security, the decentralization, feeless transactions, we're going to talk about the AI soon, useful proof of work, true finality, offline payment verification, all this stuff. We've heard about it all and we're seeing examples of it all from the Qubic team, but they're going to release technical papers showing and documenting exactly how all this works. But if you're investing in Qubic right now, you're getting into it before this technical documentation's in place. So you're getting in super early. Now, of course, the counterpoint to that is that, maybe that technical paper will never come, or, when it does come, it won't do what they say it does, and it's all bullshit, and Qubic goes to zero. That's also a possible thing, but I think with someone like Sergey Ivancheglo's history, a team of 50 people, all the signs that we're seeing about the Qubic network, I think it's going to be the opposite. But, nothing's ever proven. We don't know anything ever for certain. But this is the game that you're playing with investing in a crypto project in its early phases, is you're trying to get in there before it blows up and, everyone's talking about it and everyone owns some Qubic. And then, the chances of you making a 10x is, unlikely. But right now is the point where you can make that 10x by investing in Qubic. But right now is the time that it can go to zero too, and that's always worth saying. So then, the reason 21 is probably the biggest, coolest thing about Qubic is that Qubic is working on creating an artificial general intelligence. So a truly intelligent artificial intelligence, not something like ChatGPT that's a clever tool. This is something that can think for itself and is truly evolving and incredible and goes beyond what a human can teach it or tried to make it to be. Whether this will be achieved, we don't know, but all that computational power that Qubic is gathering is going towards this. Sergey Ivancheglo has been thinking about this for 20 years. He's had an interest in this. And I believe that this guy is on something, but I don't know that factually. But, I'll explain why in a second. I think he's on to something. Now, we're at the point, yet again, really early phase, where we haven't seen any proof of Agard yet. There was one proof of concept kind of game released. I didn't even try it, but people, weren't blown away by that. But that's the only interaction that anyone's had with Agard yet. But over a month ago, he released, if you want to interact on X, he said in 4 weeks plus, so, in over a month, with the first Agard-based AI, get message signer and so on. So basically what he was saying is that around this time, so October, maybe late October, might be November, things get held up, but he's saying that they're going to release the first Agard-based AI. Now, is this going to be a super intelligent AI? Definitely not. I think he's saying that Agard at this point is, at the point of the intelligence of a fly, but that's still more intelligent than ChatGPT. So he's saying that we're going to interact with something that's got intelligence. It's going to be a bot. The other day, the Qubic team asked people what would they name a Qubic bot, and people are voting on that. Again, that's really, really showing that something is coming. Who knows what is coming? But if we can get in, if you're buying Qubic now, you're getting in there really, really early. If Qubic can just create AI tools that are useful, that's going to be huge for this project. And it's going to take it far beyond crypto, and it could be used by some of the biggest companies in the world. If Qubic creates an AGI, that will be the most, one of the most important inventions ever created by humans, and it'll be the most advanced invention ever created by humans. And as people say, the last invention that will ever need it to be created by humans. So, it's a gamble. Who knows whether it'll do that? But I'm thinking that they're on something. The signs are that they're on something, and maybe it won't be AGI, but there's some really cool AI. Definitely, I think is going to come out of Qubic, and that's really exciting. So the reason that I think that Qubic is on something is that they employed or kind of created this thing called the Scientific Advisory Committee, and then they got these two guys to join it. And one is called Dr. Sanchez, and this guy is a doctor of artificial intelligence with a long, long history. You can check him out on LinkedIn, a long, long history in artificial intelligence. And then they've got this guy called David Vivancos, and I've really dug into his stuff. Or I'm planning to dig into his stuff more, but I've really dug into his history in a big way. This guy, for over 20 years, has been writing books about artificial intelligence. I think he's about 3 books, delivering speeches all over the world, working with companies on artificial intelligence, doing his own experiments. But both these guys have been hired to write a scientific paper on what they're seeing happening with the Qubic network. And David Vivancos, he's going to release an interview this week with the Qubic team. And basically, he says in that, they ask him, how excited are you by what you're seeing in terms of this AI that Qubic's working on? Is called Agard. And he said, how excited are you in terms of what you're seeing develop with Agard on a scale of 10? And he said, 10 straight away. Now, I mean, you can be skeptical about that. And you're right to be skeptical, because we don't know for certain what this guy's motivations are or what anyone else's is. But you think this guy has a 20-year history and he's built up a really strong reputation, and now he's come to some project. You would imagine he's not going to just go and risk his 20-year reputation by talking rubbish, and the project turns out to be rubbish. You would imagine that he's working on a strong scientific paper, and what he's seeing is something that's really exciting and really interesting, and that's why he's given it a 10 out of 10 in terms of excitement. Again, I'm picking up in signs here, and this is why I'm investing in Qubic now, and this is why I know that it's risky. It could go to zero. It could be all bullshit. But I'm looking at things like this, and they're sending me signals that the Qubic network is building something that could be one of the biggest advances in the world. And it's still a great time to invest in Bitcoin. Probably will be for a long time, but there's no point now. It's not that there's no point now, but the time to invest in Bitcoin, it was 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. Even up till 2017, but those early phases when people weren't sure of it, thought it was all rubbish. That was the time to be investing in it. And the time to be investing in Qubic, in my opinion, is now. Because Qubic right now, its price is so low, its market cap is 200 million. I mean, if this project did create an AGI, you'd think of, and if its useful proof of work model works as well as they're saying it does, you think of projects like Nvidia, that hit, I might be right in saying it's 3 trillion market cap. I mean, you would imagine this could go a lot higher than that. And you might think that's insane, but if Qubic, even if they don't invent an AGI, even if it's just really useful AI tools, and they are getting all this power from all over the world, and they become the strongest supercomputer in the world because people are getting paid to lend their power to the network. I mean, how does that price market cap not shoot up to, like, at least, worst case scenario, not shoot up to billions? Like, how does it not? But then, it's not a stretch to believe that it wouldn't be up at 100 billion or up at trillions. I mean, it might feel insane, but if you said to someone in 2009 that Bitcoin was going to hit a trillion market cap, most people would have laughed at you. They'd have thought you were crazy. But Bitcoin, it doesn't really do anything, and it doesn't work that well. This is something that could be one of the most useful tools in the world, and is a real technological advancement if it does what it does, and the whole world could be built on top of this, and people just haven't caught on. And the Qubic team is releasing all the signs that that they're achieving what they're saying they're achieving, and they're creating papers that are going to prove that they've achieved what they're saying that they've been trying to achieve. And it's just that this is the point to get into it. When people are doubting it, this is the point to get into it. And it could go to the moon then, or it could go to zero. But for me, I'm so positive on Qubic. But I always keep my skepticism as well. I don't know, and I only put in what I could afford to lose. And I'm not gambling my house in it, but I think this project is something different. That's 23 points I got for you guys. By the way, there's so much more on Qubic that I could have shared in this video. I could have talked about every point in this video for about 5 hours at least. Like, there's so much information, and so much to dig into on this project. But I wanted to keep it kind of short and sweet as much as I could for some of you guys that don't know the project in that much detail, and just wanted an overview of the key points. And that is the 23 key points that I think you need to recognize for now if you're investing in Qubic. That's all I've got for you today, guys. I'll see you all on the outside.